Select Board work session, Thursday, May 8th, 5 o'clock. We have to be out of here before 6 because of the Police Commission meeting. All right. We're dealing with dock ordinance.
Can we just give any input we want right now, or we're following some kind of procedure?
Well,
Because I can give you a 1-minute bucket list of what I would like.
Then I have a bucket list.
Okay, can I bucket list quick?
It's
I'm
up-
bucking this.
It's up to Dave on how he wants to
yeah,
run.
go ahead.
Okay, so what I would like to do is ask the mailboat to go to Dive Winnipesaukee. I'd like to take the mailboat spot, make it a handicapped spot. I would like to leave the fireboat where it is. I'd like to put Marine Patrol in the front right across from the fireboat, put the electric department boat behind that because I think Marine Patrol, if they have an emergency, should get out quicker than the fire patrol boat. I think that the area of dock closest to the shore can be for a 10-foot small skiff, or we could make it a jet ski launch. We leave the Millie B where it is and charge them a $1,000 fee equal to the back docks for Nate Druin. And that way we can call that area, if we want, our multi-use or municipal docks, have the commercial docks where the Millie B is and the Mount Washington. The rest of the docks become resident. The rest of the docks are residential docks. And I would ask that in our commercial dock ordinance, we put in a clause that says, if someone breaks the docks and wharfs ordinance and they have a commercial permit, their commercial permit is pulled. Maybe one warning, maybe not. And then it's pulled. Because I had somebody that I talked to today who said that they, on a regular day, every day, go down and sit and have lunch on the town docks and send emails and stuff like that, and they said they watch all the commercial boats come in with the names on the side. We won't mention any of the names. And they come to the commercial docks and they pick up and drop off, to the residential docks, and they come and they drop off and pick up all the time. So that's where I am.
So that's Brian's bucket list.
And I'm going home.
And
Brian's leaving.
okay, so where I went, I was looking at the ordinance, and part of the ordinance is that people need to provide us a schedule. And if we took some of these smaller groups and had them set times when they could come in, then that kind of will make them so they can't just,
The commercial people.
Yes.
Okay.
So they can come in at 9 and drop off at 10. They've got to give us some kind of a schedule. The boats that don't have a schedule are the ones that are causing us the issue. They're going in and out and have multiple boats. So I think that we could try to address that with that. I would also like us to look at the definition of what a boat may do. It says carrying passengers for hire. So maybe we want to say something like carrying cruise passengers, cruise passengers, so it's somebody going out for a cruise and coming back, opposed to somebody going out for water skiing. Just a thought. I see the Mount Washington and the Millie B as an icon, and need to stay there. The mailboat, I have questions. We should not allow any renting of boats from the recreational docks, which we were told they were doing. I'm with Brian. I think we need to have a charge for an overnight slip for our long-term users.
Who's our long-term users?
The Millie B and the mailboat now, but if it leaves, that won't be. I'd like to limit the number of permits, similar to our hawkers and peddlers. I'd like to have a handicap slip, and I want to make sure that we have enough spots for our residents and boaters to have a slip to come in, to drop off, and to pick up. There's supposed to be on Dock F, on the southern side, there was supposed to be another passenger drop off and pick up, and I don't think we're doing that. So those are the things, when I look at the ordinance, those are things that I would like to change. I thought that Amy gave us an excellent list of fees and also showed us what would happen if we doubled them. So I thought that was very helpful. I think there's no question in my mind that we need to get more revenue from the dock. I think our ordinance needs to be well-written and clear and defining, and I think we're in the process of trying to decide what kind of commercial boats we allow on the dock. But I feel that dock, that commercial part, has been a part of our tourist and resort community for years. That's why I call them icons. So that's where I am.
Hi, John.
Can I ask Linda a question?
Sure.
So, who's more iconic? The Blue Ghost because they've been there longer, or the Millie Bee because they have an old wooden boat?
I'm looking at the amount of time they've been at the dock and Mount Washington and what the Mount Washington brings to this community. And so that makes it iconic for me. May not be for you.
So, well, no,
wait,
hold on.
I'm going to finish my answer.
Wait a minute.
You know, the Mount Washington brings 50 or more people to town each day. I think there are many people who go down to watch the Mount Washington come in or out. They were here for campers. I've seen grandparents and children. They go to the dock just to watch the Mount Washington come in. To me, that's makes it iconic. And the Millie Bee has been here from 1998. So those are my reasons. I would leave the mailboat there. The difference with the mailboat is it's expanded its business, it's made it longer, and is advertising more cruise. That's the only reason I didn't include that.
Where?
What?
Leave the mailboat where?
At the dock where it is right now.
I see.
If it wasn't for the fact that it was larger and it is now adding to its business and advertising that, which I don't think it did in the past. So those are my reasons. You don't have to agree with me, but those are my reasons.
So can I ask, can we have a discussion about this? So I didn't ask about the Mount Washington, I asked about the Millie Bee and the Blue Ghost. And what I was trying to get at was, is there a number of years that make a boat iconic? Or does it just get a term iconic?
I guess I was looking at if it goes back to the 1990s or before. It does. That's just kind of what I'm using, because I think people are used to having them here. I think they support the business community. They have fit in our definition of a commercial landing permit for years, and that's what they do. We're now running into people who are not carrying passengers, picking them up and dropping off. We have a whole lot of other business going on, and trying to get a way to have a definition that defines those. I don't think people should be coming in and bringing a boat in for rental off of our recreational docks. Right. And that's what's happening. They told us it was happening.
So I have a question. Where was
Well,
our...
I'm not done
No,
yet.
wait a minute. Hold it, Brian.
So you gave a pretty elongated description there. I didn't really require that. What I'm asking is, the Blue Ghost has been there since I was 6 years old. I understand they've changed their format, but since the Millie Bee came in '98, wouldn't you have to say that the Blue Ghost is iconic? Just because of the years it's been there?
I could use that. I didn't, because there have been questions about how it's changed. Could I do that? Would it fall on that? I'd have no problem doing it, but there was concern about it's expanding its business into another area.
So let's just break this down little by little. But in reality, the Millie Bee is doing the same thing that the Blue Ghost is doing. They're chartering people.
But that's what they were all the time. the mail boat was mainly doing mail. They weren't advertising. They weren't connected with another business in town. That's what made the difference. Could I live with them being there also? I could.
I'm just trying to understand the iconic definition here. And so, again, let's walk this through. So if the Blue Ghost has been there for 45 years, and they delivered mail, and that would make them as iconic as the Mount Washington. If the Millie B was brought into play in the 1998, and they decided to charter people, and they were described as iconic, then the Millie B and the Blue Ghost would both be iconic at the same time.
I will add the mail boat in to take care of this whole issue you're dealing with.
Okay,
So that takes care of that. That's my interpretation. Other people have other interpretations on how they want to do it. So I will, to make it so that it fits, that I would say that's iconic too, but the issue had to do with the way it was using another business.
So my
that's
question,
why I
John,
decided.
do you remember where the mailboat was when you were 6 years old?
Right there in the same spot it is right now.
It's always been in that spot.
Yes.
Okay. Can I do my bucket list?
Sure.
You done?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it's always been in the same place, because I don't know, we've rebuilt the docks and whatnot.
Yeah. So
It's information.
2 seconds ahead of time, there's two ways I look at this thing. I like the idea of island guests, island owners, private people coming into town, parking at a dock, taking out the credit card, spending lots of money in the town. I like the idea of being able to pick up and drop off people so that you can pick up your kids, drop them off for an ice cream. That formula right there, the second part, is getting gummed up as I've seen it over the past couple of years, okay? Be that as it may. I would make a motion, and we can't do it tonight, that's why I asked, but I would make a motion that says, effective 1/1/26, Wolfeboro docks A through G inclusive shall only be used for non-commercial purposes, as well as state municipal overnight boat parking subject to prior approval by the Wolfeboro Select Board. One dock space, preferably on dock G, should be reserved for short-term passenger pickup, drop-off, and ADA. So you and I may have a kind of a little difference. So basically what I'm thinking is, first things first, let's reaffirm that those docks are for people to come in and take out their credit card and spend a ton of money. Now we have to move over to the, my word, commercial dock, is that what we call it?
That's
I'll
what
call
it's
it the
been called.
commercial dock.
Yeah.
So now we move over to the commercial dock, and my going in position on that is, I do think that the Millie B and the Mount Washington fit my personal definition of they're iconic. They've been here, they have schedules, people, at least on the Mount Washington, come into town, credit card in hand, and buy stuff. So I would be hard pressed to say, no. The Millie B has a schedule, and so that leaves that little itty bitty dock where we've all been competing, scrumming, and I don't have an answer for that. My go-in position would be that I believe, I could be wrong most of the time, I believe that what we are doing, I did a little division here, and I took the total amount of trips and divided it by the total amount of dollars that we would receive from some of these folks. It turns out to be every time they pull into the dock, we charge them 54 cents, which is kind of nuts. So I think what we're doing is, with these other boat vendors, we are competing with the private businesses who have dock space, and we shouldn't do that. At least that's my view. So my first ask is A through G, whatever we want to call it, plus the state municipal boats, carve out time, place for handicapped or pickup drop off. I don't know if you could do both. Yeah. And I don't have a good solution I have a good, my view, I have a good solution for the Mount Washington and for the Millie B. During the off-season, we probably got to get together and see if we can do some kind of cost recovery, pricing, make sure it works, make sure everybody's happy, that kind of stuff. But I don't know what to do with the ever-increasing amount of boats that are creating this scrum in there. And I will ask one last point. These new boat operators, I shouldn't say new, these boat operators do not comport with our current ordinance.
That's correct.
I want to run a pontoon boat. I pick up the phone, I call pontoon boat company ABC, and I say, can I get on your boat tomorrow at 4 o'clock? No, maybe 6. Okay, fine. So that's kind of it's rapid fire. So these folks, despite Amy's best efforts, are unable to provide us with a schedule. Technically, we could say, you haven't provided us with a schedule that complies with our ordinance, which is legacy in the first place, you're out. I think that's unfair. And I'm also not keen on the grandfathering, you were here first, you don't get to go. So I don't know what to do with those other ones. I will reserve conversation on what goes on in Back Bay, and I will reserve conversation on what goes on in the Libby, because that's later on. So my bid is what I just gave you. Clear out the docks, move the problem over to the commercial docks, thrash at it.
My one comment is the commercial docks is where this all is supposed to be taking place.
Right.
We're trying to stop.
Yeah, it's kind of leaking over, right?
Yes, we're trying to deal with the leakage.
The difficulty is going to be for the Blue Ghost or Blue Moon or whatever. That one.
Yeah, and, I guess my feeling is if we go back to the ordinance and make them have a schedule, they have to come in on set times. That will stop some of that, issues that they have. Yeah. And if they're going to rent their boats to go skiing, maybe you have to rent it off another boat. Huh? And if you're going to give cruises or carry passengers, that you have a set time that you're going to be at the dock. And
or another boat yard.
Or another boat yard.
You heard Isaac last night, bless his heart, say, we may have to knock on the door at the Wolfeboro Inn or something.
And I think
that's a good thing to do.
And he said,
yes, I agree.
He said the dive shop. He said that I can also get a dock at the dive shop.
That's a good thing to do because that's revenue in the pocket of a business person as opposed to us charging 54 cents per
drop-off.
Per drop.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're trying to do by putting the schedule in. It's not. You can't deal with going out on a ski trip and take them out for the day that you say that for, because they say they do cruises. I think that going off that dock, we should have boats that are doing cruises or coming into the town for a short period of time when they can tell us the day and time they're coming in and going out. And that leaves the structure that I believe that we need on the commercial dock.
So let me, I know you had your hand. Can I just ask for clarification on that one, Linda? So let's just assume for the heck of it, forget about the Millie B and the Mount Washington, just for a moment. We have that little
Yep, that's it.
Squishy dock. Mm-hmm. We have 5 contenders right now, 6, maybe 5, maybe 6.
I don't know of that.
5.
I think
We've got 5 contenders.
Well,
Yep.
the one of them uses the Mount Washington dock. I thought
That's the YMCA.
Yep.
Yep.
And then there
so
is the Venture.
That uses the commercial.
Yep.
Right, and then there's Wake Winnie.
2. Mailboat, 3.
Nope, not
No,
mailboat.
not Mailboat.
They don't use that drop-off.
They would. I'm just saying.
They would.
They could. They
I
would.
don't think they could
3.
get in there. They could go on the end. I don't think they'd get that big.
So let's assume you have 4 contenders.
Yep.
Okay, let's make up a number just so that we can get the argument on the table. So is it your theory that says, we'd love to have you give us a schedule. We appreciate and understand that you can't provide that because people do call. Ergo, we're going to create a schedule for you. So boat A, you get from 10 until 11, and then 4 to 5. Are you suggesting that?
No.
No. Okay.
No,
good.
I'm not suggesting
it's just a
that.
horse of a
I'm
different
expecting them to say, I'm going, and we get it so they do cruises. They can't do their ski boats and all the other thing off the dock. They want to do a cruise. They tell us, like the Mount Washington, they're going to come in here and go out there. And then the next boat who wants it, these people have that time, then you can have this time, and they say, I'll take that time.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, we used to have the Mount Washington and the Winnie Bell. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
The Mount Washington came in, the Winnie Bell came in at 12:30, they picked up, they went out. The Mount Washington came, the Winnie Bell came in. They all had schedules, and they could flow in and out with each other. And that's what I'm trying to see if we
Would you
could
be keen
do.
to saying, when the Mount Washington's not here, because they give us a schedule, we could use that extra space, as the Y does, to schedule pickup and drop-offs at those docks?
We can, if they are a big enough boat
Sure.
that can use that dock, but these smaller boats can't do that.
Yeah.
So yes, that's part of the reason we owned that dock. It used to be the Mount Washington's dock, and we owned it, and we were able to have the Mount Washington and the the Winnipesaukee Bell off that dock, yeah. If there's another boat that's that size who can come in and give us a schedule, wants to drop off and pick up, I think it falls within what the intent of the commercial vehicle landing permit.
Vessel.
John, did you have?
Yeah, I do. So I think, Linda, you just hit on something. We own it. We own the dock. Okay, we own the dock. So we know we own the dock. So do we want to market to pay the dock hands and the expenses in that area?
Just for the sake of the conversation, of course we do.
Okay. Sure. So do we have a obligation to provide a handicap spot?
I would say it's probably the right thing to do,
Okay. So,
We don't have a legal obligation.
but it's probably the right thing to do.
Okay.
But I would say, if you could make it a drop-off, pickup, and an ADA compliant, or a handicap drop-off spot, you could do two things.
okay. So now I'm going to go iconic here.
And you only have one handicap spot on the lake,
Let me,
and it's over at Guilford, and it's run by
let me finish, Brian.
the
It's my
Marine
turn.
Patrol.
So, the Blue Ghost, named after the fly that Jim Warner created for fishing back in the day, who was the original founder of Lakes Region Sports.
Okay.
The Millie Bee, named after Mildred Beach, founder of the airport. Together, I don't think you can say which one is more important. They're both very historic to our town.
Sure.
Question that I have is the Millie Bee. Do I need to know who made the deal to give the Millie Bee the dock? I don't think we do. But what I do think we need to do is we need to recognize that we have one spot where the Millie Bee is. The preferential spot for our handicap spot would be where the Blue Ghost is.
Okay.
The Millie Bee doesn't give us a schedule. They have people that come in. We've asked the other people to provide a schedule. They have guests. They sit there. They wait for guests. A guest shows up. They pay their fee. Then they go out. I've done it. I know the process. They could have a schedule, but
Okay, I think they do give us a schedule, so.
they're gonna sit there all day waiting for riders to come in. So the schedule is, they've got the spot, and when somebody comes in 9 to 5 or whatever, they're gonna fill those spots. They may not fill them all the time. Okay. So now what we've got is we've got these other charter groups that want to use our commercial dock. We don't know out there if there's other people that want to rent those commercial docks. We know that when I went on to the Wake Winnie, they wanted $1,600 for the day to rent the pontoon boat with a slide.
Yep.
We know that Clearwater Charters has had a rental for $1,675 for their 8 hours for the day. So what I think we're coming down to here is we're coming down to one spot.
Right.
In my opinion, I would put the Millie Bee spot up for a hawker's permit. If somebody out there also who has 5 boats, 6 boats, 10 boats, they could probably make a lot of money during the day with that spot, where the Millie B is. I think for us to pick between one of them, as the gentleman from Wake Winnie said, I think he made a pretty good point. I think I don't think we're being disingenuous at the same time, because we've taken a historical approach to the Blue Ghost being there, and then the Millie B being there, and the Mount Washington being there. So we never really had a enfranchisement of anybody else to market this dock in our history that I can recall. This has all been propagated newly over the last few years. Why it happened, I'm not quite sure, but I can honestly tell you that the way I think about it is there's a marina across the bay, and they rent out boats too. You go online and you can rent a boat for them. So we're acting as the marina. And so we are acting as the marina, but we're not getting the income that a marina would be getting. So that's where I come back down to the revenue aspect. If we want to be the marina, we should be getting the revenue that the marina gets. Or we put everybody's name in a hat, like we do the hawker's permit.
We don't.
And we draw one name.
We don't.
Let me finish, Brian.
You've been talking for 10 minutes.
Brian, that's it. Let him finish.
Have a piece of mango. Keep going, John.
And we can put one name in a hat, and we can draw the hat, and we can have one vote pay the fee. That's my opinion. Brian, the floor is yours. I know you want to be right, so it's all.
It's not about being right. It's about, I want continuity. So my question is this, and we've asked you and you haven't answered. What do we do with Dockside then, and what do we do with Hot Dog Bob? Give me an answer right now.
I don't understand the question.
I don't either.
So Hot Dog Bob has a hawker's license. Do we take his away and we take and put it in a hat and draw it every year? Do we take Dockside and put that in a hat and draw it every year? So you want to do that with the Millie B spot, but you don't want to do that with Dockside, and you don't want to do that with Hot Dog Bob spot. I want continuity.
If that's a recommendation, then we'll look at it. I mean, we're not talking about Hot Dog Bob spot, we're talking about the boat spots.
It seems to me, I could be wrong, it seems to me that if I've made an investment in a boat or boats, and I'm trying to make a business plan, it seems to me that what I want is continuity as to where I can land the vessel. Introducing a hat draw, my opinion, on an annual or every other year thing, introduces business risk to me, to the person. I got this boat, now I can't get on the docks, I'm screwed. So I don't personally find that to be a workable solution. Personal opinion. I was having a hard time following, your, do we think we should reimburse or compensate for our dock hands? Yeah, of course. But so this area in question, this commercial dock area in question, I said it before, I'll say it one more time and shut up. We should not be in this business, period. We should not have it. We should say we are out. Now, Millie B and Mount Washington, yell at me for this, you're in. Everybody else, out. That's kind of where I go, because the confusion, the bad blood, the hurt feelings, the we versus they, why not me, it's not them, I don't like that at all, and it's not right. I don't want to say fair, not right.
Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. And probably the mistake we made was trying to put in a spot when we redid the docks to accommodate these start-off businesses to come in and drop off like these other boats or businesses were doing. And I always thought it was a pickup and a drop-off, and that's why there's a schedule. so that it can accommodate everybody. I'd have no problem just keeping the Mount Washington and the Millie B. Do I think we need to raise the rates? Yes, I do.
Yeah, sure.
Do I think we have to get $17,000 to cover the full amount of the dock hands? No. In the town, there's a give and take. We get a certain number of fees. We don't cover in our fees in Park and Rec to cover everything. We cover a proportion. And I think that makes sense, and I will support raising those rates. I could support doing those 2 boats. I agree that the hawkers and peddlers is written so you have your spot, you keep your spot when a new spot turns over. Then if we have 2 or 3 who live in Wolfeboro, that is one of the criterias. Then we pick out of the hat to choose which of the 3. So that's a different setup. I'll go with Brian with the dockside. We put the dockside out to bid. The Baileys didn't win, and we had a couple of years of just a mess over there until we had another family who came in and ran it, and we've been able to give them 5-year leases. So I think we want to be more consistent than drawing it out of the hat.
Dave, if I can speak again. So, these numbers may be wrong, but they're close enough for this government to work with. $3,800 is the revenue we're prospectively bringing in, divided over 6 people. So $633. I did a calculation, $633 per nose. That includes the Mountain and Millie B. I did a calculation based upon prospective trips and visits. And it really comes down to every time one of these boats calls on us, including the larger ones, it's like 55 cents. 55 cents. I find that to be bizarre, and I find that to be this business here competing with those people over there who could generate a hell of a lot more revenue renting out slip space. That's part one. As it relates to how we price, if we believe that we should somehow come up with a metric to take care of our dock hands, then we basically do a cost of recovery plus capital divided into the amount of dock hands, and there's your average price. That's not hard. If we want to do value pricing, which is like we're going to write a software package and we're trying to make $1 gazillion, then we can kind of flumble around. I don't think we should be in the value pricing business. We're a town entity. We should recover our costs, make a contribution to our capital, and if we can get a couple of bucks, and I say more than a couple of bucks, to take care of our dock hands, I'm all in on that. So the pricing thing, I think, is interesting, but we're not going to solve the town operating budget issue here. The question, and I don't mean that to be snarky, John, the question is, should we even be doing this at all? And I'm coming away from this saying, it doesn't get better the bigger it gets. And I think that's a bad idea. Thank you.
Dave, I have one question. Why are we the only dock on the lake that allows commercial operations?
Because we're nice people.
Because it's been there for a while. The Mount Washington coming in, it doesn't go into Meredith.
I asked the question, who made the deal?
Who made what deal?
Who made the deal?
What deal?
The deal to allow a commercial dock to happen.
Long before I was young.
Just what Brian said. Who made the? What? He asked the question. Why? Why are we the only town? The question comes down to who made the deal.
Yeah, and not the Mount Washington. The Mount Washington has been going to docks for 100 and something years. But if you talk of any other commercial, because Alton, they own a dock there. Center Harbor, they own a dock there. Laconia, they don't own the dock, but they use that. They used to own our dock, but they don't. Now we charge them a landing fee. But other than the Mount Washington, Alton has no commercial boats off their docks. Guilford has none off their docks. Meredith has none. Laconia has none. Center Harbor has none. Tuftonboro has none. We do.
And your question is, everybody else is doing it one way, and John, you're asking who did what? The Mount Washington deal?
No, I'm asking the question that Brian's asking. If there's one commercial dock how did that come about? And who decided that we were going to give the Millie B the spot? I mean, obviously, the Blue Ghost had made the spot way long ago, and that was for the male.
This is not meant to be a snarky answer, but I'd say scope creep.
I'll tell you who granted it. It was the Board of Selectmen at that time.
Scope
That's
creep.
how it got there. You know? That's the people who had the authority to rent it. And it was somewheres back there, some Board of Selectmen said, no different than us being in the Libby, we have inherited this from past decisions.
Scope creep.
So basically, what you're saying is, it's our decision moving forward.
It always has been.
You know, yes. We control
Could be, yes.
It always has
Absolutely.
We could decide to stop any commercial use of the dock space,
That's right.
Yep.
except for, say, the Mount Washington.
Well, we could do all of it.
We could do all of
We
them.
could
The
do
Mount
anything,
Washington would
all
have
of
a
it.
cardiac arrest, and we'd probably want to do that.
Well, not
'cause-
only the Mount Washington would have a cardiac arrest, but I think there are a lot of businesses in town
Yeah.
that have a cardiac
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
arrest.
So I would move to support Dave's proposition. Eliminate all the commercial except for the Mount Washington.
Well, we can't make any motions at
Can't do
this
it tonight.
meeting.
I get that.
We just need to get information. I think Brian had a list, Linda had a list, you had a list,
I had a motion.
right?
I had a proposed motion.
Well, we can't. do
I know,
any
but I.
Yeah.
But I had a proposed idea.
I think that we need to take your ideas, Linda, Brian's. You just had one that may work, is if we don't have any commercial dock space, that's going to be our decision. We'll probably have to go to town meeting when
Yep.
you know, we could do it, I suppose. and then-
I think it comes from our ordinance, and ordinances don't go to town meeting.
go to
It's on our back. That's what we are,
They go to
that's what
public
they
I think
elected.
that-
it.
I
We
think
blow it,
Brian
they
has
get to
some
go after
ideas,
us.
Linda does, John does, and I think we ought to get those in writing so we know what we're looking at on all three of those, personally.
And as far as the hawkers thing, if we start on a fresh slate and we want to say, okay, we're starting a new program and everybody wants to put their name into the hat for that one spot and we agree that it will be for 5 years or as long as they want the spot, then, I mean,
Well, we already have that in place. So it's going to have to be up to our town attorney to tell us whether we can terminate them or we have to go to the end of that. The end date that we have now with whoever's in ABC. So
Are you
somebody
talking
has just signed a,
for this year? You're going through this year, we'd have to go through 2020.
yes, we'd have to go through this year.
or if they've got a lease agreement, such as Dockside, that goes for
Oh,
whatever number
okay,
of
I
years.
wasn't going on to that, okay.
Well, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
Now I know where you're going. I do.
Some of these hawkers and peddlers things have a clause in them that they can renew it for so
Correct, they
many
do.
more years.
Yes, you're right.
But
So
that's-
we need to look at that as well.
Well, I'm talking about the hawkers of the boat, Dave. I'm not talking about the hawkers of the buildings and the hot dog spot and all that. I'm talking about,
Well, that's what I thought you were talking.
no, I'm talking about putting the boat slip up for like we did with that one spot. We drew a name out of the hat and we said,
Yep, I
okay,
understand. Yep.
you guys are all here in the crowd, we're gonna pick one name out of the hat, and that's what I was referencing it to. So I was referencing that process to this one particular boat spot with a 5-year perpetuity or however long we decided that somebody wanted to do it, to make Brian feel like it's not something that it's year after year.
Well, and my only point to you, John, is you can depend on me to not support that, because that's a winners and losers model. I would not make a business commitment personally to buy 1, 2, 5, pick the number, $65,000, $75,000 boats, website stuff, and then run the risk of every 5th year getting, or not getting in the first place. That's a business risk. I would prefer to say, go find yourself a dock space. There's a lot in town. And you may have to pay more than what we would charge you, 54 cents a landing. And that's the way it is. The only thing I would be different, so I would be different from you. I'd say the Millie B, and I know I can't explain why. I don't have good business justification. But the Millie B and the Mount Washington just strike me as been here, and they stick around for as long as they're necessary. That's kind of my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but that's mine. The A through G docks, my ask is those are for the people out there in the out. The gentleman who sent us a letter from Barn Door saying I can't get in. Those people out there that are saying I can't get in. Me who says I can't get in. Those A through G docks don't belong to commercial use. The state can use it for their police boat. Tom and Barry can use it, and then Brian, we'd figure out where to put the boats and drop, that to me is logistics.
And I think we have something in our ordinance that tells us where we're supposed to have a drop-off spot, and if we're supposed to have it, we better have it.
Right.
We don't have it now, and which is causing some of the problem that we're having, and I will give those, but I think I'd like to take that, I think we have great ideas, and I think we need to take that ordinance and talk about the different parts of it and where we want it to change. And I'll reiterate again, when we get to O, which is the Libby Museum, I'm going to step out for that talk.
Yep,
and when we vote on the ordinance, I'd like us to vote on it all except for O. Let me step out, and then you can vote on O.
Because of your son?
Because of my son, I have
That's
a
good.
conflict.
No, I got it.
So I just want to make sure, and I want the audience to know that I do have that conflict. So
when we talk about O and the Libby Trust dock, shouldn't we be in the Libby Trust meeting?
I don't think so.
no, because that's part of
No,
our
it's part of our ordinance.
ordinance,
A town ordinance.
Town ordinance.
town ordinance.
I
So
don't think
we have
so.
an ordinance, but we're discussing the Libby Trust property.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, well,
Yes,
We can
we
get
are.
a Nathan.
Yes, we are. You're right.
We can get a
we
Nathan
are.
head check on that one. Maybe we need to call a meeting where we're wearing two hats. We can get a head check, but
That would be easy for me to step out.
okay, Brian, can I get that list that you,
Yep,
I'll
And Dave, I'll send you
email
my
mine
motion.
to.
I'll email it to you tomorrow.
to Amy?
Yeah, to Amy.
I'll email it to Amy tomorrow, too.
yep. You want it to Amy? Okay.
And you had a,
I'll get it to Amy.
okay.
Motion.
Do we want to
Well,
go
we
over-
have to vacate the room, so,
Can I just say, Amy gave us a change. You have it in there in yellow, where we had talked about changes. And I think I would say if anybody has an issue with that, that should also go to Amy. Because she was nice to give us a thing with everything on it.
She
and
even
though-
gave us that it was highlighted so we could find
it, and so
traction.
I think we all should go look through that, and if we've got issues, that we send that to Amy. The one thing, well, I can't get into that, never mind.
Okay.
this is a work session, so we're not gonna
Well,
do what?
There is public comment at the end, Dave.
Okay. All right, we need to make a date for another meeting. Anybody have any preferences?
Anytime next week, I'll clear my calendar, I think.
ditto,
I'm pretty open next week.
ditto.
Let me look at next week. Monday is totally out.
How about Wednesday?
Wednesday, I'm okay on Wednesday, the 14th.
Yes.
And that's going to be a work session or a
Yep,
regular
work
meeting?
session at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
What day is that?
Wednesday, the 14th, 5 p.m.
Yep.
Okay.
You want to do 5 or 4?
Is it like Wednesday? Is it like barbecue chicken day?
No, but the 4 is, it might be easier for Jim or Amy at 4 because they can come right from work right here.
It's all good. 5 is good.
Okay.
Okay, 5 o'clock on the 14th. Do you have a comment before we close this meeting?
Wednesday.
Torrance Stegemeyer, owner of Wake Windy LLC. Thank you all for discussing this. This seems productive. It's really cool to see you all throwing ideas out. A couple things I feel like you may just be overlooking. The boat business is a horrible business to be in. I tell you, it is like awful. I know, thank you for noticing the rates that some of, myself and competitors have published. It's because we're running like $250,000 vessels, super high-risk activity, and we have 2 months to do it. That's how we get those rates. And it's just not easy. And then dockage is really slipping away. So what the town has is not a opportunity for visitors to come and have a good time problem. They just have a dock slip problem. Someone is parking there when other people also want to park there. It's not me or them. It shouldn't be anybody. I kind of agree with you all in that situation. The commercial vessel permit is awesome because we are the only town that does it. I moved to this town and I could not figure out how to get onto this lake. So I figured out how to barely afford a boat that I could crowd fund, and that's how Wake Winnie got started in 2018. I couldn't afford one on my own, so I shared it with others. And it was awesome. A lot of memories with families. They're still coming back here, and I am an integral part of their family vacation. And it's really cool to see the kids, the families grow. Our business has grown with them. We started renting them boats because they're now 18, 20 years old. Part of our process is teaching them how to drive these things, showing them the value we bring to Lake Winnipesaukee and Wolfeboro. So it would be unfortunate if you just took the commercial vessel landing permit away. I don't think that's in the best interest of the people that come here or want to come here. It's a vision for the town that doesn't seem quite right. Of course, if that's what you decide to do, I hope that you take it from everybody equally, just as you will take it from me. The Millie B is existing, as am I. The Mount Washington is existing, as am I. All new boats will become old. All old boats will eventually not be waterworthy. So please take that into consideration. There has never been a problem down there, except for the favoritism that one boat gets to stay overnight. We all come and go. It's not a problem. Good friends with the Millie B. Love Chip. I've always had a good rapport with Sandy McKenzie. I actually used to drive the mailboat for him. It would be, I think, a step in the wrong direction to eliminate it. You have a super simple solution here by just saying, hey, Millie B, don't park here at night. They can still operate the same business during the day. You're not playing favorites at that point. I will come and go, as always. Other vessel permit holders will come and go, as always. The mailboat, they come and go, just like always. They can do that. Just make them get a reasonable-sized boat. Get them out of there. There's your handicap spot if you just shrink them back to where they were 2 years ago. This doesn't have to be a crazy rewrite of the entire dock area if you don't want it to be. If you do, so be it. But, I appreciate you talking about it, spending time on it, and I hope you will see that families come to this lake and this town because of businesses like mine. And if you take it away, it takes visitors away, and depends on what your vision for the town is at that point, I guess. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ready?
Jody Person. Yeah, I really think the town docks are called the town docks, and it should really just get back to the basics of being the town docks, the taxpayers' docks. The people who come visit from all over the lake come in. I think you're slowly seeing it turning into a commercial venture. I really do. I mean, Mount Washington's not even part of the topic. That's always going to be coming in as long as I'll be alive, probably. The Millie B, they're up in Wolfeboro now with the museum. I don't understand why they really don't have any ties to Wolfeboro anymore, the museum, do they? I mean...
Yes, they own a lot.
They
Still own the Quonset hut.
They own the Quonset hut, but did they move everything over to the other place?
They do I think their boat building there.
Yeah, they do the boat building, they do the sailboats at
Back Bay,
Back
and
Bay.
they also do partner with Park and Rec to do sailboat lessons on
Yeah.
Wentworth.
Yes.
Yes, those things are there. So they're still
They're
here.
still
I
invested in the
guess they're still
town.
invested in the
Yep.
town.
There you go.
Correct.
Yeah.
As far as, doesn't it say, what
Right.
does it say on the side of the Millie B? Boat Museum, doesn't it? No?
I don't,
I thought it did, maybe it didn't. I don't know.
I couldn't tell you.
I think it says New Hampshire Boat Museum.
So here's an example. We're, again, the only town that is going to allow a bass tournament in the middle of July. Why are they coming here for their bass tournament?
Yeah.
Because everybody else already said no.
Yeah,
That's the way it is. So we just go, everybody come over.
Yeah,
And that's okay, as long as it works and we don't have issues.
well, I mean, that shouldn't be, I think the town dogs should get back to town dogs. Not,
Okay.
I'm
What
a
else?
bass fisherman, but I don't think, the town dogs, the front town dogs shouldn't be for bass tournaments.
Well, sure.
When I was,
It's a different thing.
when I was down there the other day, and I said this before, a boat came in, dropped off somebody at the docks who went to his pickup truck. I walked over and said, "Hey, was that a nice fishing charter?" He goes, "Yes, it was." And I said, "Great." I said, "Did you catch anything?" "Yes." I said, "Where does he come out of?" He goes, "Oh, he's in Alton, but he comes to these docks and he goes to other docks." "Where are you from?" "Dover." So a guy from Alton is using the recreational docks to pick up a guy from Dover to go on a fishing tour.
Yeah.
Why does it happen here? Because anyplace else, it wouldn't be allowed.
Exactly.
Because he's on the Chamber of Commerce website, which
Yes.
basically advertises in the town of Wolfeboro.
Is that Tim Moore?
I don't know who it is, but I saw one that
Guiding light,
guiding light.
and he keeps his
That's
boat.
a different one. This guy who I talked to in Dover said he uses 3 different ones on the lake. Usually, the one Tim Moore goes out of Alton, out of Roberts Cove Marina
Yep.
in Alton.
That's guiding light, too.
But he said he comes here too, and he goes to other places also, because he can.
Yeah, you got people coming in, I can sit down there and you can watch people coming in for commercials, stuff across the whole spectrum. I mean, I have my coffee down there in the morning and it's,
I think the focus of our conversation should be on the matter at hand, which is, what the heck are we going to do with this conundrum we have on the town docks?
well, I'll just leave it with, I think we need to get back to the basics of,
So do you think there should be no commercial at all if you're a guide person or a fishing person, or how would you approach that?
Want to take one for the road?
I don't know. I mean, the Millie B doesn't pay anything for their slip. Is that correct right now?
No, they pay a de minimis amount.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, you're,
So you can.
you're working it out. Hopefully you can work it out. I just want to say it should get back to town docks and not people renting boats, launching them, tying them up, waiting for people to come. That's not using the town docks as town docks. I'm sorry, but.
Center Harbor has an ex-Marine
Thank
that's
you.
their dock attendant that watches the docks to make sure
Yeah,
that nothing
I mean,
commercial
what are you
happens.
gonna have, a dock master? I'll be the dock master. Thank you.
Only we can get your whistle.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second then.
Okay, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.